I'm Deacon Jones. And I'm here to teach you how to whip evil's ass. A man torn from his family, murdered in his prime, only to return to Earth resurrected.
We'd like you to become an operative in the Corps.
Fight evil, save souls.
As an agent of the Almighty Corps.
Chandler, meet your new partner.
With no magic, no special powers, forbidden from intimate contact, unrecognizable to those from their past lives. Chandler Smite and Henry McNeil now fight to save lost souls against the minions of darkness.
Deals with the devil or bad. It's our job to stop him.
Is he always like this?
It is the battle of good versus evil. Good versus evil. That's what it is.
Greetings, fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. As far as television shows go, I generally prefer cartoons, but the first live-action show that I ever became a devoted fan of was the Pate Brothers' Good vs. Evil. Now, the illustrious Deacon Jones already laid down the plot, so let's look at the rules of this never-ending war.
The rules.
Representing the good, we have the Corps, a super secret organization devoted to kicking evil's ass on behalf of God. You become an agent of the Corps if you're an innocent who was accidentally killed in the crossfire of the war. If you're on the fence between going to heaven or hell, the Corps gives you the opportunity to earn your way into heaven by helping to fight the evil and save souls. Representing the evil, we have the Morlocks, demon-human half-breeds who can mask their true demon appearance unless they are reflected in mirrors. Right, Deacon?
It's the only surefire way to spot a Morlock, because they show up in a mirror, horns and all. So when in doubt, whip it out.
A Morlock's purpose is to collect souls. And how do they collect souls? By making Faustian deals with us desperate and weak humans. We sell our souls in exchange for riches, fame, or the life of a loved one. And then, when we die, the Morlocks collect our souls and we become Morlocks. Now, while being a Corps agent may heighten your chances of getting into heaven, it does have its drawbacks. Number 1. You're human. You're just as vulnerable and mortal as you were during your previous life. Number 2. You cannot be recognized by people from your past life. If you reveal yourself to them, you're just putting them in danger, as the Morlocks will try to get to you through them. Number 3. If you're killed by a Morlock, you become a Morlock. And number 4. You can't have sex. Why? Because if you accidentally have sex with a Morlock, you become a Morlock. And anyone can be a Morlock. Even if you have a mirror handy, Morlocks are still very crafty. Plus, if you do the deed, you're going to have to deal with Deacon.
I'll get you having sex with the Morlock. I will cut your right off.
And lastly, a Corps agent has 2 real jobs. Firstly, save souls. You do this by finding Faustians, humans who have made deals with Morlocks, and get them to renounce their deals. They can only do this by returning what they have received from the Morlocks. If a Faustian refuses to renounce their deal, Corps agents are fully deputized to kill them. After all, we can't have more Morlocks running around. And our second duty as Corps agents, and this is the funnest part, if you find a Morlock, deport his ass back to hell. Morlocks are for the most part invulnerable, but they do have one weakness.
This is the weapon of choice of the Corps, soaked in the blood of innocence. This weapon is used to kill Morlocks. Only this. Guns are obsolete.
Alright, now that you know the rules and you're ready to kick evil's ass, let's meet our fellow agents.
Cast and characters.
In this section, I'm just going to be talking about the 4 characters who were there from the beginning to the end of the show. I will go over other supporting characters when I start going over the seasons as they are being introduced. Let's start with the bosses.
Ford Blasco, played by Marshall Bell, and Decker Benbow, played by Goody Grass.
These guys are your classic fat guy, skinny guy comedy team. They are the hilariously condescending, relentlessly sarcastic leaders of the Hollywood division of the Corps. And they don't care what despicable things they have to do to get results.
Tell me what I want to know. We might go easy on you karma-wise.
Kiss my ass.
Now, you know what? Fine. You want to be a little snot? Go right ahead. Bring in the heavy artillery.
Oh, Dick, is this absolutely necessary?
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary. Uh-oh, what's that?
Sorry about this, Sammy, but you leave us no choice.
What are you gonna do?
Oh, I don't know. What could it be? That's a real good question. Who's this? That what he's gonna do.
Janet, you Janet.
Yeah, I got a better idea. How about a little double header? 1, 2, buckle my shoe.
No,
3, 4,
not the
chop their
twins.
heads
Not
off.
the twins.
Where's the lab, Sam?
2 heads at once. Cut them off.
Anything but the twins.
Anything but the twins, then tell us what we want to know.
that?
Where is it? Tell us.
Adam, 2, 3, 4, Adam. What can I do for my baby?
Oh, give her back her babies now. Are they hurt? Ow, hug them, hug them.
You guys are ruthless.
Yes, they are, little girl. Now let's move on to our two main heroes, starting with...
Henry McNeil, played by Richard Brooks.
Hell yeah, Henry is one badass soul brother who's been a core agent since the late 70s. He brings experience to the team, but that doesn't mean that he's not liable to make a mistake every now and then. But he's just as lethal with the Morlocks as he's smooth with the ladies.
Jerk off.
It's not easy being Henry McNeil. And now for the other half of our lean, mean demon fighting team.
Chandler Smythe, played by Clayton Rohner.
Chandler is one of my all-time favorite characters, mostly because I can really relate to him. He's not perfect, but he never backs down, and he never gives up.
Just when you think everything is lost, Chandler Smythe is in the house.
I love how in the beginning, not only did Henry and Chandler hate each other, but they were terribly incompetent. But as the show progressed, they really started to get good at their jobs. And this was due in part to their relationship towards one another.
How about Oh.
Let's dance.
Nice try.
I also think that it's hilarious as hell that the moment Chandler can no longer have sex, every woman on the planet wants to jump in bed with him. It's not easy being Chandler Smythe. Now let's look at the seasons.
Season 1.
The initial season of Good vs. Evil aired on the USA Network, and originally it was called G vs. E.
G versus E, that's what it is.
It featured a very retro 70s style, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Starsky and Hutch. The tone was extremely tongue-in-cheek, featuring ridiculous plot lines like Henry playing a game of golf to save his soul, and the Core teaming up with WWE's Mankind to bring down a Morlock who had infiltrated the amateur wrestling circuit. With that said, this is the kind of cheese that I love. And my favorite wrestler teaming up with two of my favorite fictional characters is just fucking awesome.
You know what the Australian word for sissy is?
No. Would you like to tell me?
American wrestler.
Nah, you done it.
You know what's Australian for coma? Foley.
On the flip side of those ridiculous plots, we have great episodes, like Evelator, where Henry and Chandler see firsthand just how hard it is to be one of the top agents in the front line.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
Then we have Choose Your Own Evil, where Chandler accidentally compromises his son Ben's safety by revealing his identity to him and accidentally giving a Morlock the opportunity to kidnap Ben and hold him for ransom. Oh, and did I mention that this episode has not one, not two, but 3 alternate endings?
Mortals are not supposed to know any of this kind of stuff.
It's always like this.
Last but not least, my favorite episode of Season 1, Buried, which sees Chandler try to take on a case on his own, only to wake up buried alive. Now Henry has less than 5 hours to save Chandler's life, as his coffin is filling up with water. This episode keeps you at the edge of your seat all the way through, as Henry goes from one horrible ordeal to the other, and he does everything in his power to save his partner's life. Clayton Rohner's performance in this episode is amazing, especially considering he was stuck in a box for most of it. The moment where he decides to call his son to say goodbye is especially heartbreaking. I also love how this episode solidifies Henry and Chandler's relationship, not just as partners, but kindred spirits and eventually best friends. After the first season, G vs. E was cancelled, but luckily it went on for 1 more year, thanks to a great network that used to stand for great fantasy shows such as this one.
Season 2.
Back when Sci-Fi Channel was awesome, they used to pick up sci-fantasy shows that other networks had dropped, like Sliders. G vs. E was one of those shows. Along with the network change came the official name change, and the show took off in what is its greatest and sadly its final season. The show improved immensely. Hell, Richard Brooks grew out an actual afro, as opposed to wearing a wig like he did in the first season. But more importantly, the characters were developed a lot better, and the stories became a little bit more dramatic and heartfelt. Not to say they didn't have some fun every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Well played, McDuff.
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Now, I can't talk about Season 2 without talking about Underworld. Underworld is a pseudo-clipisode that is made up of the unused footage from the pilot. You see, the original pilot of Good vs. Evil was way different. It had a darker tone. The core was far more ambiguous, and Chandler worked alone. The network didn't like it, so the creators took it back to the toolshed. In that respect, this episode is very similar to the Menagerie from Star Trek. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your local Trekkie, he'll fill you in. The episode, it's not bad, but you can see why they decided to retool the show and turn it into the G vs. E that we know and love. Anyway, some of the best episodes include Nurse Evil, where Chandler is committed to a mental institution after revealing the existence of the core and the Morlocks in open court. Clayton Roner's performance in this episode is stellar. This is also the episode that introduces Agent Annalise Volkovich, played by Christine Minter. She is a no-nonsense demon-fighting Amazon, and she was awesome. Not to mention the sexual tension between her and Henry made for one steamy coffee commercial.
You like cream?
Yeah, lots of cream.
Vanilla or Irish?
I like vanilla. What about you?
No, I like mine black and strong.
I should mention that Annalise was not the first female supporting character. Before her, we had Esmeralda and Walker Rosenberg, who weren't bad characters, and I mean no disrespect to the actresses who played them, it's just that these characters lacked dimension. They each had just one character trait, and that's it. Walker was a stone-cold bitch.
Some kind of eye twitch thing you got going on there, Smythe? It's attractive.
And Esmeralda was very Hispanic, to the point that she would drop one Spanish word into every sentence just in case you forgot.
Too much fiesta last night. Pero that's why I'm here in America. Ooh, she's feisty. For such a little niña.
Another great episode was Renunciation, in which Henry has to save the soul of the man who murdered him, Sonny Rhames. This episode is excellent. It puts Henry in the middle of the ultimate moral dilemma, so the usually cool and collected Henry is pushed to his emotional limit. Not only does this episode delve into Henry's origins, but it also holds the distinction of having the highest number of guest stars. Walter Jones, the Black Ranger, plays the young version of Sonny Rhames. Antonio Huggy Bear Fargas from Starsky and Hutch plays the villain Dutch Sims. And none other than Star Trek's Lieutenant Uhura, Nichelle Nichols plays Henry's mom. Then there's M is for Morlocks, which has the Corps begin to award heavenly points to their agents for renunciations and Morlock kills. Whomever gets the most heavenly points gets to meet someone who passed away. Henry wants to meet Jesus. Yes, you heard me right. All the while Chandler wants to spend some time with his dearly departed wife. Their competition as they try to solve the same case on two separate fronts is hilariously entertaining. Not to mention, this episode has the most touching ending in the entirety of the show. And last but not least, my favorite episode in the entire series, Relic of Evil. We are finally introduced to El Lorenz. Who is El Lorenz, you might ask? He is the most evil of all the Morlocks. He is the thing that evil things fear. And up to this point, they had only shown him in silhouette. And this is him. Again, I mean no disrespect to the actor here. He is very good, especially when he delivers a very well-written monologue explaining why he became a Morlock, but it's just that there was a huge build-up to seeing this guy, and when he finally appears, it was terribly underwhelming. Nothing about this guy commanded the fear or the level of evil that the show had established before. But in spite of that, I love this episode. As the proverbial shit hits the fan, El Lorenz unearths an ancient tablet that can turn people into full-blooded demons. Not Morlocks, full, terrifying, fresh out of hell demons. And he uses the tablet on Henry. He takes over the Corps headquarters and plans to turn every agent in the Corps into demons. And the only one that can save them is Chandler's son. This episode rocks hard. It was very much the setup to greater and bigger things to come in future seasons, but sadly, we didn't get to see. In fact, a lot of awesome things were set up that sadly were never concluded. For starters, they don't actually beat Ellorenz at the end of this episode. He gets away, meaning he's still out there being evil. And then there's the 4 amulets of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Tell him, Deacon.
The amulets of the 4 horsemen. This is the booty in the war between the Morlocks and the Corps. Right now, we have 2, they have 2. If the Morlocks ever get a hold of all 4 of them, it's the human race that gets the head slap. The important thing to know is when these amulets come together, the spirit of the 4 horsemen are released. And thus begins the apocalypse.
Boy, would I kill to see a season finally dealing with those.
Final verdict.
Sadly, this show was never released on DVD. Hell, the only reason I have the episodes is cause I recorded the show as it was airing on Sci-Fi Channel. But you should be able to find the show online by using your standard Google search. This show definitely fueled my love for the paranormal investigator genre. Even though it was an action-adventure show, it didn't over-glorify the world that the characters inhabited. Chandler and Henry were just a couple of regular guys. Corps headquarters was a tire shop, and our heroes drove around in an orange Volvo station wagon. But they were still great heroes, in spite of the lack of glory, cause as they say in the Corps, the Lord kicks ass in mysterious ways. 10 points on the badassitude meter! Keep your Morlock killing daggers handy and give it a watch.
This is evil. That's what it is.
Join the Legion, suckers!
Calm down, baby. Who cares about the no sex rule? My bedroom is the stage and we are the show. A quick striptease and girl, I'm ready to go. Slow motion, babe, will take you over the top. This lion's roaring ready to tear you apart. Cause your candid eyes got me hypnotized. Everything about you stirs me up when you walk by. Girl, it's your candid eyes make me wanna cry. I wanna slide up and glide up and dive up inside of those candid eyes. You're loving me up.
I give my sweet love to you.
It's been so long. Who's your daddy?
You're my daddy.
So you are.
No, I can't. Ay, Dios mío, Santa María.